Someone
Wait,
slid
there
it.
it is.
Nice.
Hello.
Thanks, AV, coming in
Yeah.
clutch again.
Brilliant.
Right. So, I was just introducing myself and talk about you anticipation. I know. And I started singing. I was doing karaoke a little bit.
Okay, cool.
So I have I got a studio. It's by Coast. We do the things, and we've done a lot of things. And I'll talk about those later. But let me introduce the Caitlin Glass.
What up,
Yes, that
y'all?
Caitlin Glass.
Yeah, I'm Caitlin Glass. I'm a voice actor and ADR director. I've been doing this for like 20 years. I see lots of Oron people in the room, so I am Haruhi and Oron. I also directed it. I've directed other shows like things I can't remember.
Fruits Basket.
Fruits Basket. There we go. Horimiya. Right now I'm directing Solo Leveling. And I love that. Is the reaction I want. It is my passion right now. But I'm Winry Rockbell. I'm in My Hero Academia. I work at Crunchyroll. All that jazz.
My Hero Academia. No big
Yeah,
deal.
like, you're in it too, aren't you?
No.
Travesty.
I'm not a funny thing in a minute.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, so we have a wide range of experiences. Michael's also a producer and runs a studio and knows a lot more things about like the Japanese aspect of stuff and etc. But like, just kind of like ask us whatever. We're here to share our knowledge with you.
Us a.
Yeah.
Yes.
Siblings.
Yes. I love it. And I will start off the questions with a funny mouth sound. I can make a cork sound with no fingers. There you go.
Nice.
You had a hand.
I hope
Do you have a question to
She
accompany
has
that?
two hands.
What is your favorite accent to do?
Oh, wow.
I really like doing a Scottish drogue.
Okay,
That's
that's good.
fantastic. Mine's a bit off.
Wait, I don't know. Let me think.
Because my favorite accent is Warburton.
Oh,
sounds like he's yawning.
That's how you get into it.
Come on, Dean, never welch in a bed.
Good morning, Colorado anime.
The altitude's kicking my hiney.
Hydration.
Huh?
Hydration. The altitude will
Hydration.
actually make you fall.
Yeah, I'm trying. I got the liquid IV in here and everything. And then coffee, which undoes it all. So.
Dance monkey.
I don't know. I have a cousin who lives in Australia, and when I go, I kiss that when I'm there. And my husband hates
I
it.
think it's my have a Tim Tam.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm probably
No, it's
Australian.
flat white. That's
Flat
your
white.
Australian.
Yeah,
It's for a flat white.
The end.
Yeah,
The air
flat
in white. A flat white?
So that's it. But my
That's
husband
great.
hates it.
Is that more Brisbane?
No, they live in Sydney.
Sydney?
Yeah.
Lazy bugger? Yeah, probably Australian. Do you have a favorite accent today?
You said Scottish, yeah.
I like doing Scottish, but I can also do a little bit of Victorian.
Oh,
I started
fancy.
talking like Jester for Critical Role, and of course you've got to have a nice, like this is particularly entertaining.
I agree. That's rather
Quite.
mine.
I guess it's just
Great.
Victorian is like because it constantly wavers.
That's fine.
Hey, you know what?
We
Speaking
don't
of-
know. We're not British.
I thought so when you first walked in for a second.
Oh, really? Good. I just heard that in a session the other day. I was working with a director I'd never worked with before, doing some music. And when I sang like my first line, he's like, "Are you British?" He's French, and I'm like, "No, what did I say?" That sounded is it a vowel sound? You did sounded British. It's fine.
Wow. Did he hate you for it?
No, I don't
I'll
know.
never forget. I got directed by a French guy once. It was Michel Gondry. And I was like,
What? The Michel Gondry?
the
Wow.
Michel Gondry. And I was
gosh.
like, oh my gosh. It was this callback for a thing in New York. And he was like, your character is high school boy, so sound like high school boy.
If you don't know who that is, you need to go look them up. They're a remarkable filmmaker, and you can easily watch like a lot of their music videos are a great introduction to their type of stuff.
I
It's
love the videos.
amazing.
Did he do like Spotless, Eternal Sunshine?
He's did some Beck
Yeah.
music videos
Oh,
that
yeah.
are great. There's probably some Bjork ones.
Probably some Bjork.
Sue's my
Bjork's
favorite.
accent. I don't know how to do it, but I love it. I had to do an accent in a game once. It was very weird. For Rainbow Six Siege, and
Oh, cool.
there's a German character. And when I first did, I just auditioned with whatever German thing I did, but put on and I was like, oh, I'm German now, great, here we go. And by the way, Australia. I'm gonna come back to Australian, putting a pin in Australian. But the first time I had to do it for money, and I was unprepared, and they could have told me a month ago. Anyway, for the
That's
German
real.
thing, I show up and I do the thing, and the director had me kind of going further and further into a thing, and it sounded sort of French or even French Canadian. And the Montreal team of Ubisoft was like, is this sounding a little too maybe? He's like, no, it's perfect. I grew up there. And so he kept pushing me in this direction I didn't really agree with, neither did the client, but that's what happened. So then he ended up not being called back for all the subsequent recording sessions, and they were like, we think you might need a voice coach. And I was like, I don't think I need that, but I was like, I'll take a free coaching, whatever.
Yeah.
And the cool thing that came out of that was a conversation about like where accents come from, and there's placement, there's like physical things, not just like sounds. But then also like, what is it about German culture that leads to the sound of Germans? And one thing was precision and not trying to screw it up. So the idea came that, well, we want to make the accent better than it sounded before, but we can't also completely dishonor it. So what we came up with was corrected German accent. So rather than leading into the whole thing, we were like, what? Schultz! What if you're trying not to sound German, but you are? So instead of the American, whatever, I was like, the Americans. And I'm trying to make the R sound, which is harder. And then it became this accent that was compensatory instead of like leaning into the thing, which I thought was really smart.
Yeah.
And then led to something a bit more unique and more fun and more playable.
Sehr gut, ja.
Yes.
And your tongue hurts by the end of the day because it's constantly having to roll.
Meow. More hands. Nick.
If you guys have any of you guys cosplayed any of your characters, and if you were to, what would it be?
I have cosplayed Winry and Haruhi. Yeah, those are the main two. Yeah, I don't think I've done any others, or not memorably anyway. Yeah.
I don't have the power or the craftsmanship, but when I met Makoto Shinkai, when we had done Your Name, so in the movie, okay, there's a little part where he goes on where Taki, I think, he gets the date because Mitsuha's in his body, and then he goes on the date with the older girl from work. Also, he's a high school boy. What is going on? Anyway, let's not go there.
Yeah, high school boy.
No.
High school boy.
Mitsuha has Riz.
That's so French.
That's so Austrian. It just sounded, gets into the chocolate, high school boy.
Yeah, that was also the thing that was hard not to. Anyway, but he's wearing this shirt, and it's got this like white, olive, and gray stripe. And there's like thick stripes. I got nods, great. So that shirt, I was like, yo, I have that shirt. I got it like Urban Outfitters a million years ago, but mine's a crew neck, not a V-neck. And so he just wears it with the blazer, and so I was like, I'm gonna like low key like.
Wear that when you met Shinkai?
Yeah, he didn't pick up on it, but we had another nice conversation about art dope.
Yay!
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the most I've cosplayed.
Yeah, I dressed as Winry for a fan film that we made a really long time ago, like 2006, 2007. And then I was Haruhi for real, just at a con. And like nobody knew. It was great.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
My friend at Cartoon Network saw some dude with a Walter White mask at Comic-Con, was like, oh, that's funny, just a lazy mask. Like a piece of paper with string. It's like, let me get a picture with you. And it was actually the actor who plays Walter White. Incognito, just like
Love
cosplaying
that.
as himself.
Frank Cranston.
Yeah. And Cranston used to do anime. He's
No
really,
kidding?
Yeah, because he did Power Rangers.
he did Power Rangers, and he was friends with Carter, who did the scripts for 1,000 years on Pokemon.
Wow.
And yeah.
Neat.
Yeah, Carter came to his 50th. Yeah.
Neato. All right, you sir with the glasses
Talk to the
and
hand.
the
All right.
hair.
So I know that bloopers used to be a really common thing on anime blu-rays back in like the late 2000s and early 2010s, and there was that amazing clip. If anyone's a fan of Solo Leveling, you've seen the dub clip of Alex Lay and Caitlin in the booth doing
Yeah.
all the Faker Eyes versions.
Yeah.
Why did bloopers stop being a thing on physical anime releases?
Who wants to tackle this one? I will. I think honestly, it's a number of things. It's not as easy or as cheap to do as you would imagine.
Right.
Like we screw up all the time, but honestly, over the years, we kind of screw up less. We're under like stricter deadlines, and everyone's gotten so good at their job that most of the time their mistakes are literal, just like timing or acting, not like totally the words come out wrong, or I have time to leave jokes for my friend who's coming in the booth next. But say you did have a bunch of funny stuff littered throughout 12 episodes of a show, the time it takes to sort through all of that, and then another department has to provide the video and exactly all of those spots, it's hours and hours of extra work. So that's thing one. thing too is sometimes we used to leave what we would call bombs for friends in the booth, and then directors, not me, never me, who were irresponsible, those things would slip through the cracks and end up being streamed. And that was a problem, and Japan didn't like that. And then, honestly though, I think the third and most important, I don't know, most obvious reason is that the Japanese, and this is their product, these are their stories, their IPs, they view character, the relationship between character and actor very differently. A Western audience can easily divide the two. Like, you can hear me screwing up as Haruhi and go, that's Caitlin being silly. But the Japanese don't want their characters represented in that way. We got away with it with Oron because we had permission. So it's all about, what is your relationship with the licensor? Do you have the time to get the permission? Is it the kind of thing they want to be out there representing their product? Things with solo leveling, we do just because part of Alex is that he is a walking meme, and like, and I mean that in the nicest way. Like, it's part of what's fun about him and what his fan base love about him, and he just all of that whole video just came from, like, it was very organic actually how it happened. And the team at Crunchyroll were already on board and utilizing things that he would just say off the cuff and putting it into their marketing. So it's natural for that particular video to happen. But beyond that, I guess that's why you don't really see bloopers too much.
That's huge. That last point is really important. Is, you know, the speed, the streaming, everything's become much more corporatized. Yeah, the idea. I have a friend who's a pop star in Japan, and I got invited to her wedding, which I was told was a big secret, because there, like, in terms of the accessibility or the idea of the character, her character as a pop star was, I'm available for my fans. So even though she was married and gonna have a baby, it was all a secret because she had to be available. That said, Japanese fans would never encroach, but like, I was in the street with her going to a gig, and some fan recognized her and was like, oh, she doesn't, and freaked out and then ran away because they didn't want to bother her or inconvenience her. And she was like, hi.
So different.
Yeah, it's really different. So culturally, that's like a really significant thing. But, and also, well, I got away with a lot of it when I was doing Media Blaster stuff, because they got a lot of things, they got a lot of bottom of the barrel stuff, but also, not that Berserk was, but we went ham on the Berserk outtakes. But they also didn't really care to ask for permission, just forgiveness, if it even came up. So that's kind of riding roughshod, but they liked it because the first thing they gave me was a title that literally no one cared about. It came for free in a bundle called Demon Fighter Kocho, which is sort of a knockoff, at least of the name of Devil Hunter Yoko, and it was a little bit of panty stuff, and it was one episode that was 30 minutes with no follow-up, and they were like, there's nothing on this thing. So I was like, wow, that's my first thing ever. And the president of the company said, well, we'll just test you out on this thing, and if you do a good job, we'll give you more, and if you do a bad job, we'll give you porn. And I was like, what? So I guess I did a good job. And
like, is that incentive, sir?
And then so I did all these extras, and they loved it because they got to fill up a DVD with more than 30 minutes of the content. But one thing I miss about outtakes, it was fun and the culture was different. And we go back, like, we know each other for these 2 decades,
years,
or,
yeah.
you know, and more. It's more. It's more. But I used to use it for fun also in the booth. I had a guy come in, and he was a West Point graduate, very serious.
Ooh.
And he was flubbing, and he was like, I'm so sorry. Like, almost like, sir, I'm sorry. I was like, wait, do you need to drop and give me 20? He's like, I'll do it. I was like, I'm kidding. So at some point I was like, he can't get out of his head, and it's a really quick turnaround. Anyway, I was like, I heard you do a good Cartman voice. Do this take as Cartman. He's like, what? I was like, don't question your director, do it. And he's like, yeah. And he does the Cartman voice. And then it got out of his head. It was a hilarious outtake. And then
He was able to get back
and
into
he loves
character.
it. So I do it for fun and to keep people creative, and because the work is so meticulous and like trying to find the thing, but also be alive and feel fresh while you're trying to hit this really narrow target of sync and all the things.
Yeah, that's totally true. I've realized that I have started playing with my actors more because I need to loosen up. I am so passionate about solo leveling, like you have no idea. But there's a lot of pressure because at Crunchyroll we don't just direct one show at a time, so it's not the only thing that I'm doing, and to put everything else I'm working on kind of on the back burner and focus can be really hard, and I'll feel myself just being really tense and not in a good place. So I've like let people goof around or encourage them to leave bombs for their friends. If you're watching Solo Leveling, there's an episode where like Ginu grabs this like demon knight and then the demon knight speaks, and it's a female voice. And so the actual line is just, wait, that voice, like, are you? And then it ends like that. And I had Alex leave a bomb for the actress, and I was like, are you Jade Saxton? And that's who it was. And when Jade came in to record, like, she totally lost her mind. She thought it was so funny. So we start leaving bombs for people. You'll never hear them, like, it won't be loud. But I can tell you about it.
Yeah, I left a bomb for, we're doing Boy and the Heron, and I left a bomb for Christian Bale.
What?
Yeah. Barbara Goodson, who is the little boy in Footy Cootie and a million things. Just Barbara Goodson's enough. She was one of the old ladies. You have seen Boy and the Heron?
Yes.
Anyone? Okay.
Yeah.
So there's all the old ladies who run the house, right? And they're telling the dad, like, oh, someone went missing a long time ago, and she's talking about the comet and everything. And he's like, what? And she goes, and for some reason we just had her say, it occurred to me in the moment to have her go, you're too damn cute, Christian Bale. And then we played it for him, and I have a recording from going, and then it goes quiet, and you hear, but it doesn't happen. I did a lot of outtakes that became famous on their own for a big IP, and then someone else picked up the next version of it, and I said, hey, outtakes were a big part of this, and live on. And they were like, okay. And then didn't really give an answer, so I got a bunch. And I was like, here, look, I got a bunch of outtakes for it. They was like, you do not have permission to do that. We are not allowed to do it from the lines of blah, 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 blah. Don't do that again. I was like, okay, sorry. But the cast reprising their roles were kind of in a mood, and so we got some. I just didn't do anything with them. And then they were like, for this next volume, did you happen to get any outtakes? And I was like, oh, well, I thought I was told not to, but you're welcome. And they were like, great, never do that again. I was like, come on.
What?
So I was just like, too many times. So now I didn't.
That's awful.
But the time is a huge factor.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's a really fun thing. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Cheryl, let's go back to this side. We'll like flip-flop sides. Any questions over on this side? If not, that's okay.
That was so fair.
Way back.
Have you guys ever been given the direction of, I love how you did this voice in this anime, do that for this, and or are you guys bound legally to not use same voices across shows?
But for kids, there was kind of a non-compete thing, and I couldn't reprise my role when invited to by Funimation on One Piece, so I waited until the expiration of the non-compete, did something different, one-off thing. There's that.
Who did you used to be?
Number 9.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Baroqueworks.
From the Baroqueworks.
And then, it's small Bro, but I couldn't come back. They're like, hey, we'll have you come back. And I think it was McFarlane, I was like, come back. And then, I had one company, Animation Collective used to always want me to do something Ninja Turtle-y. And they love Ninja Turtles so much, but they kind of wanted to make everyone Michelangelo, which was weird. They're like, oh, we're Ninja Turtle-y. And I was like, the reason it works is because there's a balance between all the personalities. They're not all Mikey, but okay, yeah. But yeah, do you get that? Asked to reprise a specific thing?
No. What I often see it would be auditions like for video games, a lot of online type. What are those ones?
MMORPGs.
Stuff like all the Smites and Paladins and games like that, and they will use characters that I have played as archetypal references, either for the character or for the voice they're looking for. And they'll be like, click here for the voice, and I'm like, that's Winry from Fullmetal Alchemist. Or like, that is Cammy from Street Fighter. Or that, and so then the folks running it, like the studio where it's going to be recorded, who's kind of handling the auditions for the client, will often tell them, we can just get you Winry from Fullmetal Alchemist if you want that, and you don't have to listen to all of these auditions. And like, it wouldn't be a problem because the character isn't Winry, right? The character is something else entirely. They just really like that voice. So that's happened. But within anime itself, I utilize major voice types as kind of like reference points or stepping off points for new roles, because it's a little easier. It makes it faster. I'll be kind of like, okay, she's like this and she's like that. But she's a little bit of a tomboy. Okay, and she's sort of introverted, so I'll start with the Haruhi voice, and if that is like too low, then I'll change it. Any Spy Family people in the room? Damien Desmond is Haruhi Fujioka as a small boy and receiving no love. Yeah, like no love from parents, just angry and sad child. But the voice, it's Haruhi's voice. And it's just an easy way for me to get into something because, as I've mentioned, we don't have a lot of time for this kind of thing. Yeah, and sometimes you don't even know that you're auditioning. It's more like they know you're available, so you'll get pulled in and like, oh, I didn't prepare, I don't know what this is, and on the day you just have to throw a voice out. So if you kind of have your standards, start with those. And
Yeah. I was on a panel with Roger Craig Smith, and then he was like, wait, you're Dean Venture? I just got an audition for Dean Venture type. And I was like, one, you don't sound like that. Two, I'm right here. But it's more like being a sommelier, like when you're like sipping wine and going, notes of garden hose and cat pee and crushed berries. It doesn't actually taste like berries or garden, or I hope I don't know what pee tastes like, but cat or otherwise. But it's like those suggestions of the notes, and we do a lot of that. I'm doing a piece right now that I wish I could talk about. It's so cool, and I just want to share the opening credit sequence, which slaps. But this actor came in and he was like, hey, what kind of character do you think would be, like if you could have your dream celebrity? And I came up with a couple things. I was like, because I worked with Paul Giamatti, I think he'd be really good. But it's like he's really more of it's more like a Will Arnett. And it's like tough, but there's actually like a real soft core inside. Like he's like, blah, 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 and even maybe sometimes kind of a jerky pants. But on the inside, he's trying to feel like a boy who's trying to figure out how to be a man. And Will has the sensitivity as well as the tough guy and the cool voice that he puts on as a cool voice without being necessarily a hard-boiled cool guy, Mm-hmm. Anyway, although that sort of thing goes, oh, that's a great reference. He's a good buddy of mine. And it turns out they are buddies. He sounds just like Will, and people will think Will Arnett is in this dub. They'll be like, is that Lego Batman in this dub? Yeah, it's coming out soon. I cannot freaking wait.
How exciting.
But it's nice to talk about that, but I don't usually always get that. I also wanted to ask you about your shirt. Zoom Electronics?
Or Zootopia?
Zoo? Yeah, I'm kind of a cursed Sonic.
Yeah,
So
I can say Zoo.
Zoom like fast.
Okay, Zoom, like gotta go fast.
Gotta go fast.
Zoom logo.
Yeah. Also, what you said about time. We don't have time anymore. And the other thing is, the work we do, okay, an actor wants to be able to do homework, but most of our job is showing up and cold reading.
Mm-hmm. And just being open.
Yeah, you're like, what am I doing?
You have to
Okay.
be so open. You have
Yeah.
to leave everything at the door and just step in there into the booth and be ready to be somebody else and let the director throw stuff at you. And yeah, it's like playing. If any of you are theater kids, it's like when you do not so much improv games like putting on a skit or zip zap zob or something like that, but just like you're yes-anding your way through the entire thing.
Yeah, and
like
then
one
the
game
whole
at a
world
time.
gets to see it.
Yeah.
So like D&D.
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of a lark, yeah.
Though I don't get to make up the story, right? I have
That's
to do it. The
unfortunate.
story is written, but how the voice
You
is
can't
gonna
make
come
up
out.
the sync.
Yeah. So you pick on this.
No, it's too much. I gotta go with Michelle.
Oh.
So, what is your favorite character you've played? And if you could play one of the other person's characters, what would it be?
Winry! FMA, I don't know.
Well, my favorite characters are Haruhi Fujioka and Cammy White from Street Fighter. Those are. I used to not know what my favorites were like early on, and we would always be like, "I love them all. They're like my children. How can I pick?" But after all of this time, I realized within the world of anime and video games, as unique as it is, it's also very tropey, and the characters exist in kind of very specific character types. And Haruhi is one of a kind. In all of these years, I've never come across another character quite like her. So and the time working on that show is really special to me. So it's definitely Haruhi in the world of anime. And in video games, it's Cammy, because when I was younger, I used to play Street Fighter when I was your age, before Cammy was even in the game, before it even had English voices.
But it was just like 2?
Yeah, original Street Fighter 2, I was obsessed with that. So I never ever thought that it's something that I would be a part of. And I've been in it since 2008 now, so Street Fighter 4, 5, and 6. And I'm DiCaprio as well, and I'm all kinds of people, but Cammy's great.
Yeah, it's weird to grow up with something and then be like, oh, that's cool, and then get to be in it. And for me, that was Turtles. And that was really special for a number of reasons. One, it was a really good headspace to step into every week, and to have brothers, which I did not grow up with. And I actually remember being in that room. I don't sound horny, but like it actually meant a lot to me. And I sat there, stood there, being like, these are my brothers behind me, and I must protect them.
That's so sweet.
Also, the description I got from production was everything you want in a hero and more. which to me is very vague and nothing actionable. Like, I want flying, you know, but okay. He's a leader, but it was actually, weirdly, Sean Schimmel who gave me the insight that helped make it very playable for me, which was, like, he's not the leader because he's got an attitude about it. You know, that's Raph. Raph wants to be the leader because he wants to go kick butt. But if he were the leader, we'd all die. If Donnie were the leader, we'd do nothing. If Mikey was the leader, then, you know, we'd just like goof off all the time. But Leo has to step up to protect his family, and that's the way you run your company. He was working with me as a director in New York at the time, and he was like, you pull all the late nights and weekends so we don't have to. You shield us from all the BS from producers so we can be creative here. And like, you make it so we can be here and be creative, and you protect us, and not because you are the leader, because you have to step up and protect us. It's an act of service, not, you know, being
Power
the boss.
play.
Yeah, power play, thanks. So that was a really nice perspective that helped make it playable for me. And then Dean Venture, who, like, honestly, it's embarrassingly is too much of my personality, and I got to do it for 20 years. That never happens. And that's a voice I've never heard. Like, everyone can do, like, they do Hank, or they do the henchman, or Dr. Mrs., or Mark, but I don't hear anyone do a Dean. I never hear anyone do a Dean.
Oh, I'm gonna have to work on it,
Work on it.
because you said if we had to play one of each other's characters, Dean Venture would be it. When I first met
Got the
Michael
red
and
hair.
I have known each other a long time, as
Yeah.
you mentioned, like 20 years. I used to have the hugest crush on him.
I have no idea. Sure, tell me that now. Great. Texas.
Yeah. But yeah, I was obsessed with Venture Brothers, and also have very fond memories of like my friend group at the time. So it was when Taliesin was coming out to
Oh,
Texas and like living there, or
Yeah.
coming back and forth and working on things.
Back.
Taliesin Jaffe from Critical Role.
Yep.
But we all know him from anime from
Yeah.
back in the day. But he would come out, and like every Sunday night, it was like, come on over to our other friend's house who are voice actors, and we would like eat nachos and watch Venture Brothers.
What? I had no idea.
Yeah, it was
Wait, whose
so
house?
special. Do you know Kevin Connolly? He's out in LA and has been now for a long time. I can connect you
Great.
back with him. But yeah, so Venture Brothers was special, and it was really fun to be like, I know that guy. And the role just seems like you're always having the best time. Like, that comes through in your performance. You're
Aw.
having the best time.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun and wacky, and I learned a lot on that show. I learned as good a boy as he is, I learned as an actor to maybe not be such a good boy. I watched Patrick Warburton come into our studio. At the time, NYV West Coast was Stephanie Shea's garage. We did a bunch of Oscar-nominated movies in that garage, but it was a garage, and Warburton came in to record some stuff, and he comes in and he's talking to Chris McCall, the director, creator, and they're having a time, and he goes to do a thing, and there's a scene where he's like fighting the monarch, basically. It's an action scene in the script, and he's like, I'm just gonna yawn through. I was like, what's going on? I was offended. I was like, this is the Patrick Warburton, and here he is just going through a line that's clearly a fight scene. He should be grabbing by the neck and going, I don't want to hear another one of your excuses, monarch. But he's going, Dad, Bob. And I was like, but it led to a conversation, and it ended up in the show being so funny because, get this, I don't know if you know the show or not, but our bodyguard, Patrick Warburton's character, Brock, is a super tough guy. The monarch, the guy who's henching our dad, is maybe not that tough a guy. So would a real tough guy have to like tough up a guy who's not a threat? It's so much smarter and funnier, and it evolved out of a conversation with the creator of the show, who was directing it at the time, with the actor playing the role, to do something different. So instead of being like, I don't want to hear another excuses, monarch, which is kind of how it seemed on the page, and I would have done, he was like, I don't want to hear another one of your excuses, monarch. And he yawns at his one word, and it's better because he's so tired of this guy's antics that it's a better choice. So I learned that. That is part of the having fun, and just like taking it off the page and discovering what else could happen. It was great.
That was a great question. Thank you.
Thanks,
Love
Han.
that. Back to this side. Everyone in the black shirt.
Yeah, jumping off the last one, in your experiences with grew up with like Street Fighter and TMNT, are there properties out now that you're looking at and thinking, is this something I would love to do in the future if I could like squeeze in there somehow?
Yeah, I mean, I used to always say like Footy Cootie, but then I got to be on the new Footy Cooties, and then I say Star Wars, and I got to be on Star Wars.
Wow.
So I feel #blessed. But now there's like, I mean, there's some like live action stuff that'd be really fun to play with, but Arcane would be pretty sick. You know, I just like what they were able to do on that. A lot of time and money, which you don't get on much stuff.
Yeah. I don't really. I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't like to get my hopes up too much because, like at Crunchyroll, like the majority of shows end up there, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna get to work on them. So I kind of like don't want to get disappointed. I got so lucky to get Solo Leveling, but it's because I was like.
actually got it for the work.
But otherwise, but your question is kind of like, are there other IPs floating out there that I'm like, man, I would love to be a part of that. Like, I would love to be a part of Star Wars. That's so cool because I have loved Star Wars since I was a little kid. That's another thing that I was very much into as a young person, like a little.
I got to say the thing.
The thing?
The thing.
Which thing? The.
May the force be with you.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, and I was like,
I have a bad feeling about this.
That's
a good thing too.
Yeah, I see that. They did an honest trailer of Star Wars Visions, and I was like, whoa, we got an honest trailer, what? I was like, the Oscars are a real privilege, but it happens every year. But to get an honest trailers, and they make a joke about how many times the scripts say I got a bad feeling about this, I thought that was really hilarious. It's facts.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it was almost there. If I think of it through the rest of the panel, I'll just shout it out.
Yeah, just blurt.
Sure. Back of the room? Yeah.
I have a serious question. After the last year and the serious changes to a lot of the studios and the other funding and MAPPA changing a lot of their financial direction into changing handles, what does that mean for you guys and your workload of working with these companies?
Well, it's going to mean something very different for us because you're in a very big, solid structure, and I'm out there trying to catch what I can.
But you catch really good things.
I'm trying so hard. The thing, what's hard for me is I'm probably the littlest guy still doing anime out there. Everyone's bigger than us, and more as streamers take over the licensing and distribution for turning out anime. They're making more and more partnerships with big box international companies. And a lot of these places have set up like a beachhead in LA. Pixelogic, Dubbing Brothers has been there for a while, but they're a French company. Pixelogic, did I say that?
Yeah,
anyway,
it's a newer one, right?
they're newer to LA. So now, and they have real
like
deep
AMC
pockets.
and Warner Brothers are hooked up with Houston.
Sure.
Yeah, because AMC bought Sentai, so a lot of dubs that you'll see on Cartoon Network nowadays, the late night ones, like there's like this Ninja Batman one that's coming out or something. And what else did they just do? They did that. What's that other one?
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, Suicide Squad one. Like that's all like Houston people. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. But I'm just a production company, and I'm not tied in with the distributor like they are and Crunchy is. So more and more, and it's tough because like those companies will get. I'm doing the English and. Yeah, I'll try my best, but they're doing like 30 languages or more. There's like, the French, the Italian, the Portuguese. So it's harder and harder for me to get a job at all because corporate companies are like, we'll just give it to these guys who can do it all. And I think it's also, there was like a swing up in quality, and I think it's starting to decline. In some part because big box solutions aren't necessarily the most sensitive to all the things, and there are mistakes being made.
Can concur. Yes.
And the other thing is, they are giving us less and less time. They're just like, well, other countries do it faster, but other countries have been dubbing longer because we're Hollywood, you dub us. No one else has a Hollywood. There's like spaghetti westerns or Bollywood or whatever, but like it's not been the same thing. And while we've done anime for a while, or maybe some kung fu films, we have not been in the practice of doing rom-coms and procedural dramas and detective shows and whatever, and mysteries just for TV, just churning them out. Now there's like a K-drama swell, and there's some stuff coming out of Europe, but like because Netflix kind of opened those floodgates, all the partners they had internationally were like, hey, let's get that US money and just corner the market. And for years, all these companies, and now some of them are gobbling each other up. Post Haste was eaten up by Deluxe. SDI group was eaten, which is a huge international group, was eaten up by Ayuno, which is how Korea-based. Anyway, so the bigger and more corporate it gets, my fear is that for dubs, especially dubs, which no one really cares about except for the audience, like this gets into a whole network of things I have feelings about and I've had conversations with executives about, but ultimately what I sense is they don't really care about the quality so much as convenience. And other countries can do it faster than we do because they have like one person doing the translation, spotting, and adaptation because they went to school for foreign language adaptation.
Yeah.
We don't have that. There's starting programs now, but like it's going to take a minute. And we're also, it's a whole thing. So anyway, it takes a bit longer, but I love the work that we're doing, and I know there's at least one big streamer that's trying to use us as an example for quality to show other people, which also puts a target on our back, but whatever. Yeah, so I'm just trying really hard, but it's really hard. That's sort of some of the under the skirt machinery. Is that an answer?
Yeah.
Could you rephrase your question? I'm gonna fall apart. It's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Deep that rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's really deep.
For real.
I was wondering also in that, what would that mean for your guys' workload when they're trying to pump out so much more faster to keep up with, how modern society, how they're accepting it now?
I think, honestly, this is above my pay grade, so all of this is my observation from my position. We have at Crunchyroll in Dallas 12 studios, 12 directors. We're each directing 2 dubs per season. Sometimes there might be a person who's only doing one, or maybe they're just working on one piece for that season, whatever.
One piece of a thing? Or
Yeah,
one
no,
piece
the
of
show one piece.
Okay.
The show one piece. But kind of like double time, right? They're doing as much one piece as I am doing for 2 shows. That's how we got caught up, by the way. We're caught up to the Japanese. But I think that we do have people above us within the company speaking for how quickly we are able to do things. And we are a well-oiled machine. I've looked into what it would be like to direct at other places, and the turn off for me is the stress of the chaos of getting it started and not having the support group behind you that will actually listen to what you say as a director. When you say, I need this, and I need this, and I need this, to be able to give you what you want. Crunchyroll understands this. So we have a schedule of here's when we get materials, here's how long it takes to do what's called spotting, when the mouth opens and what happens and putting numbers to it. And then here's how long it takes to get it translated and adapted and into my hands. So that whole thing, it takes literally just about a week to get it to me to start dubbing it. And then it takes me 20 hours per episode to get it done. And not just me, all 12 of us. And I think that's pretty impressive. So I don't see them going, let's make them do 3 shows. Like, if anything, I would love to do fewer. Like, I would love to just be doing only solo leveling. When something is really intensive and has more eyes on it, I think it should have more of my eyes on it. Yeah. But I don't know, I'll keep working on that with them. But I don't fear them giving us even more work. They wouldn't be like, let's have you do 4 or 3 or 2.5. Really? That's not gonna happen. We've been pretty set at 2 dubs per director for a long time now, before the pandemic even.
Right.
Yeah, so.
That's good, because I've noticed since the uptake in the dubs and the production work that there has been more user errors that you see as a user. Like last week, there was a show that was dropped with a dub from one of the other shows that was supposed to be dropped at the same time.
And that's like,
little things like that.
wow, I don't even know how that happens. Like, we get it done in our department, I watch a mix of it, because an engineer mixes what we recorded, I approve that. But then all of that goes off to another department because they have to put the true video on it, the video that doesn't have a timestamp and doesn't have watermarks. And so I think it still changes hands a few times before it gets uploaded.
They fix it within
That's good.
an hour if you say something.
Yeah. Please be as vocal as you want. If you think things don't sound good, say something. Like, that's the only way, and I know Crunchyroll took away the comments, so that's the easiest way to tell them would have been that.
Yep.
But people are getting pretty nasty in those comments. Oh, yeah.
Well,
They had good reason to remove them, but I understand that it's taken away a clear avenue of communication about a specific episode. So I don't know where to tell you to go, except light them up on Twitter or something. But
Not Elon Musk's internet.
I know. It's not. It's Al Gore's internet. Claim it. Al Gore's internet. We're old.
Wow. What an inconvenient truth that is.
Yeah.
Hands.
Sorry. A little bit. Oh, you've got a pink lanyard with buttons.
That's
yes.
me.
Yeah.
Do you see industry, or do you feel like there is an age limit for entry or exit in the industry?
Oh.
It's hard to, Michael, because his company's small. No, he is able to do things like utilize child actors for real children and stuff, and that is harder to do at a place like Crunchyroll because of our like time limits and things like that, and when we can record, and kids have to go to school and things, and typically we're doing whole series, and Michael often has movies or short experiences where you can guarantee I can have this child in here.
Without their voice changing.
Yeah, without their voice changing, or without it, we bake a dozen cookies, one cookie at a time. So a show takes 3 months to do, and how do you know that this kid's gonna be available weekly for 3 months? So that's one thing. We don't really use children too much out at Crunchyroll. I don't think there's an aging out. No.
No, plenty. We always need good older people, and I do think a problem with some of the older like dubs of the past that were, everyone was around our age. We're all in our 20s pretty much, and like, oh, he can sound old, and actually getting someone of a certain age is way better. For all the reasons. Like I really believe in truth in casting, and like
yes.
I'm sorry that DEI is now illegal, but like it's not how I see it. I just was like, well, if someone's from a heritage, then let's try to find that person. Maybe they'll know something. Like we did a whole thing about the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, and Stephanie did a brilliant job of finding a bunch of expat Khmer people, Khmer people from Cambodians, but and we we're like we learned so much about that everyone is connected to that experience. One girl had a story about her dad. She's watching like, I don't know, some reality show about being on it wasn't Naked and Afraid. It was like, what's the other one, the original one, The Survivor or something. And her dad's like, easy. And she's like, Dad, what are you talking about? He's like, we had to march to the jungle for 3 months to try to escape what was going on. And then the next country wouldn't let us in. So we walked 3 months back, had to wait and then walk another 3 months with children and everything you need to like be out there for 3 months. And she's like, God, all right, that's worse than Survivor. We did a movie about a deaf girl called A Silent Voice, and we were like, do you think we could actually do this with a deaf actor? And at the time, there were no agents. Now there's like agents that deal with disability and stuff and different abilities, but we found a deaf actor who was able to do it. And I was like, oh, nuts, we can't use beeps. So I had to give her a visual cue and do all this other stuff to make it so we could do it. But I think that experience has like let us like really figure out so much more about what we're doing, and it's been really, really gratifying.
I don't want people who have grown up working in the industry like myself to feel like they reach some age where they can't or shouldn't do it anymore, because just the vocal variety and the true ensemble sound, to have people of appropriate age who can actually sound like they're that age, whether they truly are, but they are closer to it than they were when they were 20. It adds so much. It adds so much to your ability to be able to escape into that story, and also to imagine that it was made in English to begin with, which is the point of a dub.
And I love working with older actors. They're especially they've been dubbing for a long time.
Yeah, I don't want them to be forgotten. There's one. So Michael was speaking a lot about like your ethnic representation in storytelling, but there can be some ageism as well. Like, why are you not considering an actor that's 60 for a guy that's 60?
Yeah, Bill Knight used to do all the stuff. He was the old guy from Ghost in the Shell, and he loved bragging that he was the oldest guy still doing all this stuff, and like he worked all the time. He was great. Barbara Goodson, like she's so great, and she's a great boy as well as a great like lady, and she was one of the lead old ladies in Boy and the Heron, and like her experience is great. Like I learned working with people who are more experienced than me.
What can be difficult though is if you do remain in the industry and say like, I'm 43, but I can still sound like I'm 13, 14, 17, but there are tons of younger actresses who've come up behind me, and it's just natural, I think, as a director to consider them more capable, even though I still sound like Winry when I want to, so, and even like with my agent who didn't know me 20 years ago, like I'm often just sent like 40-year-old roles and mom roles, and I don't mind it, I like them, but I would love to still have a shot at what was literally my bread and butter, which is, the team lead sound.
Word.
For real. This side? gray shirt.
How'd you get your start, or what's a common career path for people entering your field?
No commonality. This is what I've started saying. Like, take classes, do the thing. You know, my main advice is to get in harm's way. Put yourself out there, be doing stuff. Try to be, you know, because you develop community.
So no college.
No, do college. I mean, whatever your path is to finding life. Like, you should work on your craft, because when you get your shot, you don't want to fall on your face.
So you just go to casting.
I mean, yeah. Okay, so like,
auditions.
Everyone's story is pretty unique. Like Lisa Ortiz had her car stolen, ended up in a dub. Carrion threatened to kick my ass, literally, if I didn't crash the audition for Turtles, and then I got picked by the creator. Accident, but like, all leading up to that was taking classes, doing whatever, which you should do. Work on your craft, and then know who you are. I think the real important thing is knowing who you are and what you play, and being honest about it. Because every actor's like, I'm versatile, throw me up. I can be old this, or a young that, or a dog, or a mouse, or, you know, any size, and you're like, okay, cool, but then also, like, what is your truth? Because it's so much more competitive now. So like, where do you really live, and where do you really where do you sing? So if you know that about yourself, then just keep doing stuff. Go do theater, do improv classes, be part of a community, get online, you know, maybe do some indie games or indie animation. There's like a lot of outlets to do stuff, but I say the basic point is get in harm's way so that you're out there to some degree, and someone could be like, ooh.
Essentially, though, everybody who truly makes it, more or less, started as an actor, though. They weren't just doing some other thing and like, but I'm also gonna go to these castings, I'm also gonna, and it's like, no, we're living the life of an artist, pursuing that art. And as a director, I can speak from experience, actors who step into my booth, who've been acting somewhere on the stage, on the screen, are just far better than folks who showed up wanting to just be voice actors. Take classes, sure, but honestly, focus on the craft of acting and less on the craft
specify
of
classes.
voice
It's
acting.
not just voice classes, it's acting.
It's not where it's at. And
do theater.
I teach voice workshops sometimes, so like I'll guest into somebody's class for a night. And I take them as well, but that's more like doing some fine tuning or trying to figure out, I haven't been booking this kind of thing, what am I doing wrong? Let me get in front of a casting director who can tell me how to fix stuff. But I've already got something to work with, yeah? And the thing about taking, so I have a degree in theater, and like living in that world where all that you do, besides like your math and English classes, is be characters and play characters, and you're constantly doing scenes because you're in this class where you're focusing on something and you've got a couple scenes to do for that, and then a scene in this other class, and then you're in the play as well. So you're just completely immersed in it and getting to spend time as a character and really build the muscle of an actor. The main thing that you do when you're acting is make decisions. Decide, and you don't second guess them, you just decide and go. And there are things that you learn about when you're first studying it, like what's my motivation? You've probably heard that. That sounds really cheesy, but it's totally true. And when you're young and starting out, you literally have to think pretty hard about those things. Well, it's this, and she wants this, and this is what she's trying to get. But the more you do that, the more those decisions and realizations come naturally. You see it in the text immediately and you go with it. And that's how fast we have to work in dubbing.
Yeah.
Because we don't have rehearsal, you don't get to spend time with your other actors, you don't get scripts in advance. So you really just have to, if you want to do voice acting, just go do acting. Just go be an actor. Live the life of an artist, and then, as Michael said, get yourself in harm's way when it comes time to, book the thing. Because everybody and their brother wants to be a voice actor nowadays.
Yeah. And the submissions we used to get like dozens, then it was hundreds. We literally get thousands of submissions for everything. Thousands.
I don't doubt.
Do you listen to them all?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, sometimes, like,
you can't necessarily listen
sometimes
to
not
all of it.
You're like, oh, what's going on there? And I listen past bad audio quality or whatever, just like, do they have an idea? Is there something? Oh, and also, I have to and I don't do as much of it anymore, but when I do listen to auditions, I'm listening for the idea, and I'm also trying to be open to something that I hadn't assumed about the character that I could learn from this. It's a really great developmental process to hear 1,000 people or thousands of people like have their take on a thing. The other thing you'll hear is a lot of people doing the same thing, like the way I used to think about it when I was a good little actor boy before Patrick Warburton blew my mind, and so I listened for more grounded ideas or left field ideas on even part of the what I thought was there, but then makes sense. Not like they didn't read the spec and they're just doing their thing, and I'm like, next. You didn't even, you didn't take it seriously, and you're wrong for it, and the idea is completely ungrounded. But like, if they're like, oh, that's an interesting version of what would happen if this happened to your family, so anyway, it's all about ideas.
Yeah, and there are a lot of folks out there who want to be voice actors, and when they audition, I can tell that they have a really nice voice, but all of their choices are coming from what they know about anime. They're mimicking the anime read. And there was a period of time in dubs where reads weren't good. So that thing that they're putting forward is very false. And like that's not, and I personally as a director want all my shows to sound very grounded in reality, and depending on the show, quite cinematic. Like if you closed your eyes, you wouldn't know that it was a cartoon. So yeah, that's why just having general acting knowledge to get an audition text and know how to analyze it just from the perspective of building a character instead of becoming an anime archetype. And that may sound contradictory to some things that I said earlier in the panel, where I was like, oh, and I utilize this voice to build the next one and this voice to build the next one. But I think all of that comes from an understanding of character, not something else.
Yeah, not copying a sound.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Sure.
one of the slogans I said at my studio, and it was a screensaver for a while, is choices greater than symbol voices. It's about the idea. Choices are greater than voices. I'll make sure. Oh no, I can't. Look, you've had it up for a long time. Oh, and someone just nominated you behind you. Make this point. What's that?
Okay. I had a few, but they actually kind of got answered like throughout the panel. But a question I had is, did you ever work on a character and then after the media was released, you're like, oh, I wish I did something different there. Like I kind of regret how I did that, or like, and then like retroactively, like were you ever able to be like on a final listen, like oh, I really want to change that, and I think I will.
I don't get to do that as much. I mean, like, I would like to go back and do a lot of the things I had done.
Different choices.
Different choices. Same voices. When we did Your Name, we had no time to get it done. I found out later the reason was we had 5 weeks from receiving the materials to turn around a theatrical mix. And that included adaptation, casting, all the records, editing. And then during that time, Stephanie Shea, casting at my studio's voice of Sailor Moon, and our friend of also decades. We were auditioning all these people, and we weren't really finding the thing. And then she was like, Sinterniklaas has kind of a feminine side, and I think he'd be good for this character who's sometimes her. And I was like, she's got that boyish thing. Also, we figured out that because they have a dialect thing, which is part of the clue that someone else is inhabiting Taki's body, but we don't do dialects in this country, we have accents. We were like, okay, well, she's from Itomori, what's that gonna be? It's a made-up city, but it's in the West and kind of in the middle, so Midwestern? Ooh, how's that gonna sound? So we were auditioning people who would start off with like a Fargo and then go into like, toy, I'm a leprechaun. So it was all kind of a mess, and we had no time. So half of my team, like New York and LA, were like, we want to hear her, we want to hear him read. So we read each other and we're like, oh dang, I think that really works. So we went back to the client and we're like, hey, we've been reading all these people, but we actually kind of like each other for these roles. And he was like, why do you think we gave it to you? We wanted you to do it, hurry up. So we're like, oh, sorry. So we apparently had been cast, but they didn't tell us that. And then, but I'm glad we went through the process of figuring out his characters, because it was a good, like, workshopping. But I hear that movie, and all I can hear is the late nights. We would record things for 12 hours a day, break for dinner, come back at like 11. We would record from like 9 to 9, come back at like 11, record each other until 3 in the morning, and rinse and repeat at 9 a.m. So I see that movie, and while I think it's special, and the movie's so incredible, I'm like, I've done better. I wish I could have done better on that movie, which I love so much. But also, it is what it is, and maybe it needs to be. I was talking to Stephanie yesterday about, because some people came through the line, by the way, can I show off your hand? Hey, anyone seen the movie Your Name? Would you share your hand? Check it out.
I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
I'm actually so.
I'm gonna drop a Sharpie and cry. And Michelle, do you still have any marks on your hand? I wrote her hand for a picture yesterday.
It's very favorite.
Never wash it. But we were talking about that, about how special that was, and the thing that came up in our conversation with Shinkai was, because we're both directors and because we had to record we engineered and directed each other. And we had to come up with a rule very early on. I don't know if I told you this, but you know how it is. You're a director. I'm sure you've been directed or had directed other actors who also direct at Funny Crunchy. But like, everyone's got an opinion about like how they would do a thing, and they bring their voice. So we had to come up with a rule early on because we're both, experienced and specific. And the rule was, if either of us are playing her character, she can overrule the choice. If either of us are playing my character, I can overrule the choice. So she was playing Taki inhabiting her body and did it a certain way, and I was like, try this. She goes, no, I'd say it this way. I go, but you're not you. You're me, so do that. She's like, okay. So that rule was really helpful.
Kind of perfect.
Yeah.
You guys being the directors and in it, that's kind of great.
For that thing. And then Shinkai, who was like, what am I doing here? I'm jet lagged, and we're not going to get the Oscar nominated. Let's go ahead. You did the dub. Oh, wait, you both did the what? And then he was like, the only version of my movie where Taki and Mitsuha inform each other's performance is the English dub.
That's neat.
That's so cool.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
I have had, it happens in anime a lot where some character is inhabiting another character's body, etc. If time permits, I do often ask the actor who is possessing another, right? So if I possessed Michael, you wouldn't hear my voice come out. You'd hear out of Michael's vocal cords. Yeah.
My body, my voice.
But sorry. If I have the time as a director, I'll bring in the possessor actor to lay down everything for the other person, because they might make different choices. And while what we call the mouth flaps dictate the timing and the rhythm, you just never know emotionally what they might do or how they might emphasize a word differently because they aren't that person. A place that it's most prevalent, did anyone see the Ranking of Kings? Yeah, if you haven't seen it, oh my gosh, go see that. If you know people who maybe wouldn't be very into anime, this is a great place to start. There's, I won't say who since you guys haven't really seen it, but two very different actors. Chris George, who's a big man with a big, deep voice, is possessing the body of Justin Briner, who you know as Deku from My Hero Academia. So like young, youthful, and kind of high voice like Michael's. And while he has a lot of range, actually, he's a remarkable singer, like really trained and decent resonance. He doesn't live there vocally normally. So Chris came in and laid down everything. And then just for Justin to hear it, it just kind of like settled him into a different place. And so when he had to speak as that, it's so cool. And they let me do it. Nice. Thanks, Crunchyroll. I think they're making a stop, but this is an awesome panel. Like, I could keep sitting here and talking with you guys for hours.
Yeah, thanks for your hands and
really great questions. You're awesome.
Well, we can always ask more questions.
Yeah, come back to the table. We're sitting right next to each other, actually, out at the signing area. So, come visit us. Yay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go, Team Venture.
Morning, Maya.